Welcome to the world where we fight to the finish, and at the heart of it is one recognizable image. Originators, titans of business, brand architects, respected since 9/7. Sky's the limit, and legend behind the logo.
What's up, guys? Welcome to episode 14 of MMA Talk Canada, here with my good buddy Saad Suleiman. And we're back from the long UFC layoff. Now we got a couple cards coming in a row, some great fights, and now we're going to be predicting UFC on FX8, Belfort versus Rockhold. Saad, what do you think of the card? It's a pretty good one from top to bottom.
Yeah, it's a good card. Definitely catered, obviously, to the Brazil crowd because they're actually coming into a new area now. Not going to, for example, Sao Paulo. They're not going to Rio de Janeiro. This is actually coming from a new city. It's in, I don't know how to say the name, but it's Rio do Sul, I believe, in Brazil. So, yeah, it's definitely, they're catering to that crowd, that market. But at the same time, obviously, it's a great card. It's unfortunate that we don't get to see the cost of fight because he just had to pull out. But it should be an interesting fight nonetheless to see Jacare make his UFC debut.
Exactly, and on the preliminary card, we got some good fights too. We got Fabio Maldonado, the Iron Man versus Roger Holloway. We got Gleison Tibau, John Cholish, Francisco Trinaldo, and Mike Rio, and Hakron Diaz and Nick Lentz. So stacked undercard. We'll get into that later. We're going to the first fight of the main card. We got Rafael Natal versus João Zerafinino. Now, this Zhao is a newcomer in the UFC, facing Natal, who's relatively experienced in the UFC, having a pretty big win over Michael Kuiper. But I'm actually going to let Saad give his insight on who he thinks is going to win this fight.
Both of these men possess similar skills. Zhao, although he's a promotional newcomer on the regional circuit, he's racked up submission after submission after submission. Well, obviously, a sprinkle of decisions here. He has only, I believe, one fight that he's won by TKO. So, you know what he's going to be looking for, and that's obviously the submission. But that's also Natal's strength, too. I do think that Zhao possesses the edge when it comes to submission skills and ground game. But Natal possesses the edge when it comes to actually taking the fight down and striking. So that's probably going to lead him to win this fight. If he plays smart, if he, thinks that, he can submit Zhao, I think he's going to be in for a rough night. But I think he's going to use his striking to his advantage. Natal's been in the UFC for a while, and that'll probably help him out, especially the fact that Zhao is making his debut. Obviously, we talk about the jitters, especially fighting in your home country. That might play into a factor for Zhao, but definitely even if he loses, I think he might get another shot, even though it's his first fight.
Yeah, I got Natal by decision. So on the next fight, we'll go Rafael dos Anjos and Evan Dunham. Now this is a great fight in the lightweight division. Both these guys emerging as potential contenders. Rafael dos Anjos having 3 wins in a row, big wins, and is actually having a real career resurgence at 155. He's been having some, like I said, big wins, and I see him having another big win here over Evan Dunham. I see him outstriking him. If he goes to the ground, I believe he could submit him, Evan Dunham, if he wants to. And I believe Dos Anjos has superior conditioning and is also bigger than Evan Dunham. Evan Dunham's also known for having great fights, so I see this one being another one of those gritty fights. I see Dos Anjos winning by some decision. How about you, Saad?
Yeah, I see it very similar. I think he's going to out-grapple Dunham. Dunham is a really technical and tough striker, but he was outstruck in the case against TJ Grant back in Toronto. The thing with Dos Anjos is, as you mentioned, he really does mix things up really well, and because of his career resurgence, I think he's going to get the win here. Beating anyone the caliber of Mark Bocek and beating him at his own game speaks volumes of his potential, and I think that's going to shine through in this fight against Dunham. So I think that he's probably going to win the decision. It might not be the most exciting fight, but Evan Dunham knows how to, bring a fight to his opponent. I think that he might be able to do that and make it more exciting, but don't think that Dos Anjos is just going to sit there and strike with him. If he has the a method to win the fight by grappling. And I think he might be willing to do that here.
So you have Dos Anjos by decision?
Yes.
Okay. So next fight, we have Jacare Souza, his UFC debut against Chris Camozzi. Chris Camozzi, late replacement for Costa Philippou. I was actually really looking forward to that fight. Costa Philippou just beating Tim Boetsch back in late December, which would have been an awesome fight. It would really narrowed it down to who's going to be the next middleweight contender. But nonetheless, Chris Camozzi, great replacement. It can be a good fight. Camozzi's obviously a big underdog. I would like to see a stand-up war, but I think Jacare gets it to the ground and submits Camozzi. If Camozzi can possibly keep it standing, he might have a chance of maybe eking out a decision like he did with Nick Ring, but I don't see that's going to be the case. I think Jacare maybe stays up for the first round or so, and second round goes to his game and submits him with a really, really cool submission for the Brazilian crowd. And yeah, second round submission for Jacare Souza. How about you, Saad?
Very similarly. I'm thinking that he will be hunting for submission. Whether he gets it or not, it doesn't really matter. I think he wins his fight. His fight to lose. He's just the better fighter overall. That's not to count out Camozzi. He is on a 4-fight win streak ever since losing to Carmon. He beating Jacoby, Catones, Kane, and Ring by obviously controversial split decision. But let's not count him out. You know, he's taking the fight on short notice, and that will work against him because it is relatively short notice against Souza stepping in, as I mentioned at the top of the podcast, for the injured Costa Philippou, which would have provided such fireworks for Jacare's debut. And I think he'd actually lucked out because Costa would have been a really, really tough matchup for him. But now we actually get to see him shine. And ever since losing the belt to Luke Rockhold in Strikeforce, who's fighting now in the main event, he's reeled off pretty decent wins against Ed Short, Fuse Herman, Derek Brunson, and Bristol Morande. He actually knocked out Brunson. So that'll tell you where he stands in the division as a really good fighter. So in that case, I could see it going by submission, but I don't know. It really depends on how Camozzi looks tomorrow at the weigh-ins, whether he's really tired during fight night. Because if he is, if he's a little too gassed, I think he will succumb to submission. So it really depends on that.
Yeah, I see this one being a really good fight. Like we said, if Camozzi can keep it standing, who knows where the fight can go, but we see Jacare getting to the ground and getting a submission win. All right, so we got the main event coming up. Vitor Belfort and Luke Rockhold, Now, this is going to be a great fight. We're seeing Luke Rockhold coming in as his UFC debut, coming in as a Strikeforce champion. And we've seen Luke Rockhold have some pretty good competition, beating Tim Kennedy in his last fight, beating Jacare Souza, Keith Jardine. I don't think that Luke Rockhold has been hit hard enough, and I don't think he's been hit as hard as Vitor Belfort. I think Vitor Belfort is going to win the fight second round TKO. I see it going similar in the Michael Bisping fight. I see him kind of finding his distance in the first round, throwing some big punches, but still kind of finding his way. And then the second round, a big punch will end the fight, in my opinion. Saad, how do you see this fight going down?
Yeah, similarly. I could agree more with you on this podcast, actually. It's kind of odd. But I do like Belfort to win this fight. The thing is, a lot of people are talking about if it gets past the second round, then it's Rockhold will win the fight, mainly because he has shown the ability to go the 5 rounds and win decision. In his last fight, he beat Tim Kennedy in 5 rounds. He beat Jacare 5 rounds to win the middleweight title. So, and he's fought really good opposition. Although you could say Belfort's resume is way better because in the last, I don't know how many years, ever since he came back to the UFC, he has 2 losses. To John Jones and Anderson Silva. That's pretty good company to lose to. So, but I don't want to be harping on the fact of who he lost to. It's who he beat. For example, knocking out Rich Franklin. Knocking out Michael Bisping, who is a perennial #1 contender in the middleweight division. So obviously this is like considered, although it hasn't been billed as, it can be considered a #1 contenders match because there really isn't anyone else other than Chris Weidman. And after they fight, who's next? It's probably going to be one of these two fighters. Belfort, people say, oh, he might not deserve a middleweight title shot. Yes, he does. Because although Silva did knock him out, he's beating everybody else now. Right? Even moving up, he almost finished John Jones. Vitor Belfort deserves the utmost respect and credit in his career. Despite the TRT and his past steroid allegations, he's been around forever, since the early days of the UFC. Back in the days where people did not fight with gloves, there was no weight classes, like stuff like that. So he's really, truly the old lion. But the thing is, Rockhold is a new caliber fighter coming up homegrown from Strikeforce in the Strikeforce Challenger Series, winning the title. He's, I guess, the prototypical Strikeforce story. The fact that they reared him and brought him to become a champion. Him even beating Jacare. And I think that if Rockhold does win, it will still be an exciting fight to see him against Spider champion versus champion matchup, assuming obviously that the Spider beats Chris Weidman in the summer, which I think is highly likely. But in this particular case, I do see Vitor Belfort hitting Rockhold, hitting him early, and I think Rockhold's going to succumb to that pressure because there really isn't any answer to that other than the fact that Anderson Silva caught Belfort before Belfort could do anything. No one else has had an answer to Belfort's skills. And I don't think Rockhold is the person to do that in this case.
So you see how do you see Belfort winning this fight?
Most likely second round. I think he's going to tag him early in the first, drop him a couple of times, but somehow Rockhold will get through it, and then he'll get finished in the second. Yeah,
exactly. I'm really pumped for this fight. I'm a big Vitor Belfort fan, and I see fireworks again. And like I said, we think if Vitor Belfort can get past him like we do, he should be next in line for the title shot. It would be better for Vitor Belfort if Chris Weidman wins against Anderson, so you can kind of sell that fight a little better. But nonetheless, we see him getting the next title shot in the middleweight division. So we'll actually dip into the prelims a little bit. We have Fabio Maldonado fighting Roger Hollett. I see Maldonado winning that fight. I have Tibau over Cholish. I have Trinaldo over Rio, and I have Nick Lentz over Hacker and Diaz. So Assad, how do you see the prelims going down?
Well, I'm going to start off with the preliminary card on Field TV. So in the Hacker and Diaz versus Nick Lentz, I see Lentz winning. Trinaldo beating Mike Rio. Tibau over John Cholis. But I'm a little iffy on that pick, mainly because how Tibau looked last time. I think that he's having a little bit more trouble cutting the weight as he's getting older. Mm-hmm. Because he does kind of hell of a lot of weight.
He's a big guy.
Limit. Yeah, exactly. And it showed in the last fight. Definitely. So, I don't know. That fight could go either way. You got Paul Thiago. I got him over Michel Prazeres. How you say his name?
I believe so. Yeah, I actually forgot about that fight. That should be. I have Thiago winning that fight as well.
Yeah, and I got. I believe I got Yuri Alcantara over Ilia de Santos, and Fabio Maldonado over Roger Hollett. And then there's also some preliminary action on the Facebook. I got Asimov Gashimov over John Lineker. I got Chris Carrioso over Jasir Formiga. And I got Lucas Martins over Jeremy Larson.
So there you have it, guys. Those are all our picks for UFC on FX8. Our next prediction video will be UFC 160, Bigfoot versus Velasquez. The big rematch. We're really pumped for that fight. Another heavyweight card around the same time as it was last year in Memorial Day weekend. So there you have it, guys. We're looking for the best UFC predictions. Come no further than MMA Talk Canada. Boom.